ISHM Kolkata presents Edu Netflix, the one-stop hub for many exciting, entertaining, yet educational videos. For never-ending interesting knowledge, please do not forget to subscribe to our very own YouTube page and do not forget to click on the bell icon for upcoming updates.
Tea, one of the second most consumed drink after water today. Today, let us see the history of tea. Tea, which is derived from, basically you all have known that tea is a very common beverage. It is basically we trace back the origins back to China. So if you take the definition of tea is an aromatic beverage commonly prepared by pouring hot or boiling water over cured or fresh leaves of the Camellia sinensis, an evergreen shrub or bush native to East Asia. After water, it is the most widely consumed drink in the world. Tea originated in the region encompassing today's North Burma and southwestern China, where it was used as a medicinal drink by various ethnic groups in the region. An early credible period of tea dating back to the 3rd century AD. In basically a text written by Ho Tao, it was popularized as a recreational drink during the Chinese Tang dynasty, and tea drinking spread over the East Asian countries. Portuguese priests and merchants introduced in Europe after the 16th century. Tea became fashionable among the English, who started to plant tea on a large scale in India. And India and China are supply basically 62% of the world's tea, as per a survey done in 2016. Now let us look into a brief history of tea, an illustrative example, of course, of the brief history of tea. During a long day spent roaming in the forest in search of edible grains and herbs, the very divine farmer Shenong accidentally poisoned himself 72 times. But before the poisons could end his life, a leaf drifted into his mouth. He chewed on it and it revived him. And this is how he discovered tea, or so an ancient legend goes at least. The tea actually doesn't cure poisoning, but the story of Shindong and the mythical Chinese inventor of agriculture highlights tea's ancient China's archaeological evidence suggests that tea was first cultivated there as early as 6,000 years ago, or 15,000 years before the pharaohs built the pyramids. The original Chinese tea plant is the same time that is grown around the world today. It was originally consumed very differently. It was eaten as a vegetable or cooked with a grain. Tea only shifted from food to drink 15,000 years ago, when people realized that the combination of heat and moisture could create a complex and varied taste out of the leafy green vegetable. The standard became to heat tea packets into portable cakes and grind it into a powder and mix it with hot water and create a beverage called wacha or masha. Masha became so popular that distinct Chinese tea culture emerged, and tea was the subject of books and poetry, of the favorite drink of emperors and the medium of artists. They would draw an extra, get pictures in the form of the tea, very much like the espresso art. You might see it in coffee shops today in the 9th century. During the Tang dynasty, a Japanese monk brought the first tea plant to Japan. The Japanese eventually began its own rituals around tea, leading to the creation of the Japanese tea ceremony. And in the 14th century, the Ming dynasty, the Chinese emperor shifted the standard from tea pressed into cakes to loose leaf tea. At that point, China still held the monopoly on the world's tea trees, making tea one of the 3 essential Chinese export goods, along with porcelain and silk. This gave China a great deal of power and economic influence as tea drinking spread around the world. And spread began to even go to Europe in the early 1600s, when Dutch traders took a large quantities. Many credit Queen Catherine of Braganza, a Portuguese noblewoman, whose aristocracy when she married King Charles II in 1661. At the time, Great Britain was in the midst of expanding its colonial influence and became the new dominant world power. As Great Britain grew in interest, tea spread to various acres. In Europe, tea sold in 10 times the price of coffee, and the plant was still only grown in China. The tea trade was so lucrative that the world's fastest sailboat, the clipper ship, was born out of the intensive competition by Western trading companies and bringing back tea to great profits. To maximize their profits, Chinese tea was exchanged with silver when they proved too expensive, and then it was almost substituted as opium. This triggered a public health, and in 1839, a Chinese official ordered his men to destroy massive British shipments of opium. And as a statement against British influence over China's act, the first Opium War started between the two nations. Fighting raged up at the Chinese coast until 1852, and where the Qing dynasty and the British resumed trading on the unfavorable terms. The war weakened China's global standing for over a century. The British East India Company also wanted to be able to grade themselves and further control the market, so they commissioned botanist Robert Fortune to steal tea from China in a covert operation. He disguised himself and took a perilous journey to China's mountains, tea regions, and eventually smuggling tea trees to Darjeeling, India from China. And the plan spread further till helping the Dravid's tea rapids growth as an everyday commodity. Today, tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world after water. From the sugary Turkish Reeds tea to the salty Tibetan butter tea, they are almost every beverage of the globe, as varied as its culture.
Please subscribe to our YouTube page for more exciting information, and also visit us on our Facebook page for more updates. You can also visit our website at www.ishm.co.in.